Coming up on the show, we continue to track all the twists and the turns surrounding the crisis between Iran and Israel. We're going to welcome in a military expert who can break down the recent strikes by the U.S. on Iran's nuclear sites. Also, a former Wellstar campus in Old Fourth Ward is about to come down and be replaced. We're going to hear from the developers about the project. And we'll update you on the latest round of stormy weather. We'll talk about how long this heat wave is going to last as well. This is The Take. Let's get it. Hello and welcome. I'm Chesley McNeil, and this is The Take, where we go above and beyond the headlines and we look at the why and how stories are impacting you and your community. We invite the experts in to give their take on today's top stories, and we try to have just a little bit of fun as well. Well, this morning, the director of the CIA now says the agency has obtained a body of credible evidence that Iran's nuclear program was severely damaged by recent U.S. strikes. This is also being backed by an Iranian official, and this runs counter to the earlier intelligence assessment, which said Iran's nuclear program was only set back by months. Now that the U.S. has joined in with the latest strikes to Iran, the focus on the armed forces has been sharpened, and many wonder what military moves are still to come. Here now is retired U.S. Lieutenant General William B. Caldwell IV, who has also been serving as the president of Georgia Military College. Welcome to the show, my friend.
Well, glad to be here today. Thanks.
All right, General, at this point, from your vantage point, how effective were these U.S. strikes over there in Iran?
Well, first of all, there's probably two things the American public should be thinking about. One is the incredible way that the American military executed this mission, unprecedented. I'm not sure we've ever done something quite of that scale in the last 30, 40 years. And that has gotten lost in all the discussion about the actual strike. But to do what they did, to take, the B-2s from Missouri, fly them all the way over there, to have tankers along the way, to have the fighter aircraft, the jammers, and then to have all the search and rescue stuff that would have been along the way, the submarines pre-positioned, the Tomahawk missiles flying. I mean, that was an incredible feat that the U.S. military just accomplished. That's one side. The second side is there is absolutely no question their program was significantly degraded. You can talk all day long about whether it's obliterated, but there is no question it's enormously degraded. Yeah. And we've had presidents for the last, 20 years, all saying Iran cannot have a nuclear weapon. Iran cannot have a nuclear weapon. And finally, we did something about it.
Do you think we actually bought ourselves some time here, or we're just in the next holding pattern until the next flashpoint?
I think we actually bought a tremendous amount of time. And also what we did, we made a statement. The United States of America made a statement to the world that our military has these very, very special, unique capabilities to allow us to go anywhere in the world to do whatever, our command authorities tell us to do. But I'm not sure everybody fully appreciated and had a comprehension of just how significant that was going to be. And then these mobs, as they call them, these massive ordinances that we dropped over there on those sites. I mean, you can look at the satellite imagery and just tell that they just obliterated those locations.
Can you walk us through the kind of precision and planning that goes into a strike like this one?
Yeah, and I mean, you literally will have the entire U.S. government involved in something like this. The CIA is a key critical component. They will be doing things. You're going to have everybody who deals with anything with cyber is going to be involved in this kind of thing that's out there. You're going to have all kinds of forces that will be pre-positioned all over the place ahead of time. When they flew over Iran and dropped those bombs, you could be absolutely assured. And again, I don't have firsthand knowledge, but I've been in enough military operations in my 37 years, going, Desert Shield, SORM, Just Cause, Haiti, Iraq, Iran, Afghanistan. That I can tell you, they had forces pre-positioned already in different parts over there, ready to react and respond and to assist and help. They were already getting ready for any possible retaliations that might have occurred and what they would have done. I mean, this was an enormously well-planned, well-executed, synchronized operation beyond, and it's unfortunate the American public's not really being shared all those unique details, because all you're really seeing is a bunch of planes flew over and a bunch of planes came back, and it's far, far more greater than that, because to know where to drop those bombs with the precision that they dropped them took an enormous amount of intelligence.
We've seen how the U.S. military is working to win the battle, but what's the role in peace in this particular region?
Well, let me tell you, the one thing I have liked about this president, and I have 2 children serving today in the armed forces, and a third one about to go in 2 weeks. So I, as a parent, have a real vested interest in what's going on. And I was incredibly thankful that our nation decided to do a very precise attack and not spread this thing. And I was pleased. You know, our president got carried away and talking about he wasn't pleased with Iran and Israel attacking each other when the 12-hour ceasefire started, and used some colorful language. But the point he was trying to make is we have the opportunity to stop now. This does not need to expand. It does not need to, you know, go further than just taking out what we said we were going to do, and then let's stop. And that's exactly what should have occurred. And I personally am incredibly thankful that it has, and the ceasefire is holding right now, and that there's not been an expansion. We didn't try to go after the Iranian army or the Navy or the Air Forces, because there was no need to. The whole point was eliminate their nuclear capability and stop. And that's exactly what the United States of America did.
So what do you see happening next?
What I see happening next is America's now going to obviously get the International Atomic Energy Commission agency involved. They're going to try to get back in there and see what's going on. They're going to work hard to put the right kind of safeguards into place that were not there before to preclude them from coming back and starting to redevelop an atomic, a nuclear weapon capability. And I see sanctions now being levied in the future if they're picking up things that are starting to occur. All you had to do was watch what happened at NATO the last 2 days, the NATO summit that just occurred. Unprecedented that they all agreed to go to 5% spending of their GDPs on their militaries. That's been talked about again ever since I've been in the armed forces and beyond. And it's never, ever happened. And yesterday they agreed to it, and I think it's because they're all starting to realize that the militaries of these nations need to be just strong enough to, you know, deter any kind of aggression and ensure that others are not building a capability to be aggressive against them.
Gotcha. All right, General Caldwell, thanks so much for joining us. Thanks for your insight today.
Well, thank you so much for having me. I appreciate it.
All right, take care.
All right, bye-bye.
All right. Well, folks, it's going to be a hot day today. Not as hot as we have been, though. We're looking at 94 degrees for the afternoon high temperature. Scattered showers and thunderstorms will pop up once again. I'm going to give it a window between 2 p.m. and 10 p.m. tonight. Some of those thunderstorms could produce some damaging winds, so we have to be on the lookout, especially with some heavy rain and also frequent lightning. We'll do it again for tomorrow. 91 degrees will be the high temperature on Friday. Scattered showers, thunderstorms will break out once again. We're going to continue this pattern right on through the weekend and into next week. Hey, don't go anywhere. You're watching The Take, and we're back right after this. As we said before the break, President Trump is fiercely pushing back on questions about the success of the strikes on the Iranian nuclear facilities there. Joining us now is NBC Washington correspondent Alice Barr. And Alice, you got some late word on what's coming out of the Pentagon.
Right. So there's a press briefing that's been ongoing with the Secretary of Defense, Pete Hegseth, and also the chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff. And they have been going through a sort of a detailed explanation of all the work that went into the strike over the weekend on the Iranian nuclear sites, and particularly on that Fordo underground bunker buried under a mountain. And not just what happened actually the day of the mission. They've been talking about all of the members of the military that were involved and praising their precision and their work. But they've also been going through kind of a detailed history of all the work that went into developing this weapon that was specifically designed for a target exactly like this, basically designed for this mission. And we heard from the chairman of the Joint Chiefs. He said that all 6 weapons at each spot that they were targeted for went exactly where they were intended to go, and that based on all the modeling and all the work that they'd done going into this, that they believe that that means the weapons would have ripped through the open tunnels and destroyed critical hardware down below. And he talked about how there was a high degree of certainty with how these weapons were designed that they would be able to carry out this kind of a job. So it's very clear from what the defense secretary said that they really wanted to kind of put it all out on the table and talk in much more detail than we've seen so far about why they believe that those facilities were as badly damaged as they do.
Yeah, we've been getting a lot of back and forth on the success of these attacks, and now the CIA's assessment is being pushed out by the White House. What's going on there?
Yeah, so we also heard from the head of the CIA, the director of the CIA, who said that there is now credible intelligence indicating Iran's nuclear program was severely damaged and that it would take years to rebuild. And this kind of full court press of getting all of this intelligence out there comes because there was a report leaked. It was a preliminary assessment from the U.S. Defense Intelligence Agency that estimated that Iran's nuclear program was delayed by a matter of months, rather than completely obliterated, as the president has been saying. And so the president was very adamant that that report was, while it was authentic, he said it was premature and that they put it out before it was finished and it was based on kind of conjecture. And so in response, we're now seeing all of this information that I just spoke about being put out on the table to kind of say, there's one little data point there that's getting a lot of attention, but there's a lot of other information from the CIA, from now the Defense Department, that backs up that the damage was in fact extensive.
Mm-hmm. All right, we're also hearing that the U.S. and Iran will meet next week to discuss a potential nuclear deal, but the president is also saying that a new nuclear deal with Iran may not be necessary. Is this more of political gesturing at this point?
So I think what he's talking about is that there are going to be talks, from at least the way that he's saying it, that the U.S. is going to sit down with Iran. The way he put it initially is that there was a show of strength by the U.S. that he says paved the way for peace. And of course, he has been touting this ceasefire agreement that he was very instrumental in brokering between Iran and Israel. And now he's saying, OK, we're going to talk. But his point is that he doesn't think it is as necessary as it was before to sign a formal agreement saying you will not build a nuclear weapon, because he is adamant that the capabilities that Iran might have had to build said nuclear weapon have been destroyed. Again, there are questions about whether they could rebuild it and, whether it'd be nice to get something in writing, certainly either way.
Gotcha. All right, Alice, thanks so much. Really appreciate it. All right, we got plenty more stories for you coming up, folks. Plus, new safety laws in place for the upcoming school year. We're going to dig into them coming up. You're watching The Tape. We'll be back right after this. Welcome back to the show. Next week, a new law in Georgia takes effect, which looks to add a new layer of safety within the state's public K through 12 schools. Ricky and Alyssa's law requires school employees to be equipped with a panic button that will instantly notify 911 and law enforcement. Schools must also submit detailed annual update electronic campus maps to emergency responders. Every public school district in the state will hire a mental health coordinator, and students under the age of 16 charged with serious offenses like terrorist threats or aggravated assault with a firearm will be prosecuted as an adult. A new law named for the two students who were killed in last year's attack on Appalachia High School. Two teachers were also lost their lives in the September 4th mass shootings. While the law takes effect next Tuesday, July 1st, school districts will have exactly 1 year to fully implement these laws. Joining us now is Shannon Torres. She is the public safety expert and a retired chief of police at Key Point, New Jersey. Give us your initial take on what's contained in the new law.
Hi, good morning, and thank you for having me, of course. I think Georgia really did this right. It's named Ricky and Alyssa law, and it's after Ricky, Coach Richard Aspinwall and Alyssa Alhadeff from the Parkland tragedy. And Alyssa's law, this law is really about speed and precision, right? It's about getting help to the right location in the shortest time possible. I think it's a crucial piece of legislation because in a crisis, we know that every second counts.
Do you think the law strikes the right balance between security and maintaining a welcome environment for students?
I do. I think that immediate and silent notification without having to rely on a verbal phone call, it strikes a stronger partnership between the schools and the local first responders. We train, and our law enforcement, on the law enforcement side, we're constantly developing muscle memory and training, but that partnership, that Alyssa's law, it really helps to strengthen that partnership. And ultimately, it sends a clear message that student and staff safety is a top priority.
We've seen events happen, and it's caused some changes throughout the years over security. Do you see this as a game changer for our school students, or just another evolution in what's to come?
Yeah, I do. I think both, actually. I think it is part of the evolution. We're moving in the right direction. Alyssa's law is about eliminating the delays and some of the confusion that happens during these high stress emergencies. I think with this type of technology, schools don't just, they don't just send an alert. I know currently I'm the customer success manager for 911 Inform, and that's what my passion is. I love that 911 Inform is developing this type of interactive digital mapping and bilateral communication, strengthening the relationship between law enforcement and the schools.
Mm-hmm. As we stated earlier, the schools have at least 1 year to put all these things in place. What advice would you give school districts to get the process started?
I mean, I think that, you have to fall back on your state legislators to, try to push for funding. This is so critical that we take school safety important. And I think that getting it done, getting the right digital technology in there is important. And, obviously funding. There's also, I had the pleasure of meeting Lori Alhadeff, who developed the Make Our School Safe clubs. And she gives so many ways in which you can help to develop these clubs and get your students involved, get your community involved, and of course, advanced digital technology like our platform at 911 Inform.
Mm-hmm. Some parents out there may be wondering, you got all these measures. Do they actually prevent violence, or are they more just about reacting faster to what happens?
I think that we're going, law enforcement, we're looking at both preventative and reactive. We're reading the after action reports. I mean, we're working with schools currently that successfully use these panic alert systems, not just for active shooter situations, but for medical emergencies, fights, everyday operational stuff. And yes, I do think they save lives because we know every second counts in a crisis.
All right. Thanks so much. Shannon Torres, appreciate you joining us on the show today.
It was a pleasure, sir.
All right, take care. Plenty more stories for you coming up, folks. This is The Take, and we're back right after this. Next week, demolition will begin on the site of the former Atlanta Medical Site in Atlanta's 04th Ward. In its place, the 22-acre campus will be transformed into a mixed-use neighborhood. Here to talk more about it is Eric Pinckney. He's the Vice President of Operations with the Atlanta-based real estate firm, the Integral Group. Eric, welcome to the show.
Thank you.
All right. How anxious are you and the firm about kicking off this project?
Excited. This is absolutely, in real estate, whether you're in the industry or not, that location are three most important things, and this is a outstanding location.
What's the long-term vision for how this site looks in the future for Atlanta, as a matter of fact?
Yes, the east side has been a source of a lot of investment and will continue because of the belt line, the Freedom Parkway, and more importantly, the Vista Boulevard is a peak, a crest. That's only thing higher is Peachtree Ridge, so it provides a view west that you could only get from Boulevard.
Gotcha. This will be one of the most high-profile redevelopment projects in Atlanta. How are you going to balance the need for growth with the community's deep connection to the historic sites?
Yeah, right from the beginning, when the city stepped in and started planning, so over a year of planning has taken place already. They reached deep and wide into the Boulevard community. It is a very sophisticated, educated community when it comes to development. They've seen a lot happen, and so their involvement is one based on experience, and it's going to show in what's approved there. It's something that's going to reach a broad group of people.
Yeah. Speaking of that, affordable housing is a major part of the conversation. Walk us through what affordable will really look like here, and who is this development really for, ultimately for?
Well, what you see happening on Boulevard is probably one of the best mixes of housing affordability that no one can tell. You know, I haven't found a better analogy than an airplane. Most of us, when we fly Delta, have no idea what the passengers to our left or to our right pay. You know, if they're not in first class or comfort, then back in Maine, we're all the same. But many people pay different prices for their ticket. The same in this community. You're going to have some of the finest architecture and best built homes, both for sale and rental, anywhere in the city. And you won't be able to tell whether somebody is paying something low within a small unit or paying high. We're aiming for the luxury for high end to come back downtown and be on this side of North Avenue, because we're south of North Avenue, but you'll have Midtown and Buckhead level housing, along with the kind of affordability that has been there for ages.
All right. We've seen a pause in the demolition due to permit delays. How are you maintaining that timeline, and what should neighbors expect in terms of what's next?
100% of the permits are in hand. June 30th, this Monday, will be the ceremonial kickoff of the beginning of teardown. And with the equipment and people that are on site, by the end of this year, let's put it this way, at the beginning of next year, you'll have a clear vista from Boulevard. Everything between Boulevard and Parkway that used to be AMC will be raised.
Gotcha. All right, Eric Pinckney, thanks so much for being on the show. Thanks for your insight, man. We'll be watching what's happening next.
Thank you, Chelsea.
All right, take care now. Some of you may be cleaning up from some of those thunderstorms last night. Could there be more tonight? We'll talk with the National Weather Service. They'll break it all down for us coming up. All right, federal policy shifts this year have impacted many communities at many levels. One point of disruption is the lifeblood of small theater groups. Without federal backing, many are facing canceled productions, financial shortfalls, and uncertain futures. Here now with us is Alyssa Adler. She's the producing director for the Horizons Theater in Little Five Points. Lisa, welcome to the show.
Thanks for having us.
All right. Horizon has been known for championing bold new voices and diverse storytelling. How have these recent cuts disrupted that mission?
Well, the biggest thing for us was our grant from the National Endowment for the Arts was a $30,000 grant for the New South Young Playwrights Festival, which is a festival we do that supports diverse young writers from all over the country. We have about 35 people visit us from colleges all over the country, and that funding was pulled at the last minute. We were awarded the grant, and then they took it away, along with many, many grants around the country. We know directly of at least 556 grants around the country that were just canceled. These were all for programs that had already been in process and started, and we're expecting the money to come, and then it was gone. So we were able to do the program by appealing to our individual donors, getting them to step up. But that's a one-time thing, to get people to come and step up and, take responsibility for bringing something back. But that program is dependent on that National Endowment for the Arts. It doesn't make money. It's a program that is for education. It's not something that kids pay for. It's all free. And so that is in threat for the future. And that's the same with all the other organizations that had grants taken away from them. Most of the money that the NEA gives to projects that are for either low income, education, rural, all different kinds of organizations. The NEA touches communities all over the country, literally in every state and every congressional district.
The federal officials say they're redirecting these arts dollars towards traditional American values. What do you make of that reasoning?
Well, that is not actually what it says in the grant deadlines. And so all of us that were rescinded grants protested because they gave the grant guidelines, and we all mostly met them. And it wasn't stated that way about traditional American values. It was about specific kinds of programs, one of which was workforce development, which this was all about. So we don't know how those decisions were made. In fact, the staff of the National Endowment for the Arts did not know about the cuts being made until after they had been done and been posted on social media. So the staff didn't know why the grants are being canceled. There was no rationale given other than we did not meet their criteria anymore. Everybody just about submitted a letter protesting it and asking it to be reinstated, but who knows?
Yeah.
And the NEA has not been canceled, so there are more grants due to be submitted in July, and we're all going, well, is it worth it? Are we just going to cancel them again? Or
Right.
It's a lot of work to apply for National Endowment for the Arts grants.
Yeah, without warning, we get this, right? So do you worry these cuts could have a ripple effect and hit other theaters in the metro?
Well, they
area?
already have. I mean, the NEA funds the Georgia Council for the Arts. Now, Georgia Council for the Arts is one of the smallest agencies in the nation for arts funding, and a good portion. They only have a little over $1 million in funding, and $746,000 of that comes from the National Endowment for the Arts. So if that, we don't know what the status of that will be for the future, and that affects organizations all over Georgia. And the money amounts from the NEA are relatively small, but they are big in investment and showing investment to people that you're trying to invest further in your organizations. So it's a big deal, and it's a big deal that when you don't have that sort of stamp of approval of the NEA, that hurts. It makes it difficult to raise money. So it affects lots of organizations all over the country.
Yeah, understandable. Lisa Adler, thanks so much for joining us. Thanks for your insight this morning.
Thank you.
All right, take care. All right, we are looking at a live shot here from, looks like Georgia 400, looking pretty good. Traffic-wise, the sky is looking pretty good as well. We got some high, thin clouds overhead. Those clouds will continue to break up, and we'll get some sunshine in here, which will probably add to the instability of the atmosphere and bring us some more thunderstorms. You know, we had those thunderstorms last night. Many people waking up to the sight of downed trees and power outages around the area from last night. Yep, 11Alive came upon a scene of a couple of downed power trees, not power trees, but trees down on power lines throughout the area. In fact, our reporters have been out and about checking out some of the damage. This, you can see this tree right here down in southeast Atlanta. Even as the sun rose this morning, thousands of people are still without power. So we check in with our friends at the National Weather Service in Peachtree City. Meteorologist Lusk, how you doing, man? He's senior forecaster for the National Weather Service out of Peachtree City. How you doing this morning, my friend?
Doing pretty good. How about you?
I'm doing pretty good. Talk to me about those storms overnight, man. Pretty powerful, right?
Yeah, they definitely packed a punch in some areas. One of the biggest areas right now that we've seen is kind of what you were talking about, where we saw some trees down and stuff like that in southern portions of the metro. So it happened overnight, so we're waiting on reports and things to roll in right now. But we saw definitely some pretty significant power outages, and we've already gotten some tree reports out of like Clayton County, portions of Henry County, as well as over into like Fayette and even parts of Coweta County. And then go ahead. I'm sorry.
No. You go ahead. Go right ahead, sir.
And then we also had some, those storms kind of continued down towards the southwest, and we do have a little pocket of damage that happened in northern Upton County that we are planning on at least going out and doing a survey for today. It looks like we may have had a brief tornado that could have occurred in that area. So,
yeah, I was just about to say, like around 1 o'clock in the morning or so, we had that one tornado warning down there in Upton. Is it possible that there could have been others or another one in other areas, or do we think that was just kind of straight line wind damage that knocked some of these trees down?
For the most part right now, we think everything else was likely straight line wind damage. We did see some pretty significant wind gusts, upwards of 60 miles an hour in some areas, and that will absolutely do some pretty significant tree damage, especially in and around North Georgia and parts of the Atlanta metro. But the only place we're worried about, at least a tornado right now, is down there in Upton County.
Is this rare for us this time of year?
It's definitely a little more on the unusual side to get a tornado, and this was definitely not we'll say, traditional tornadic thunderstorm by any means. It's not a normal way that we would go about getting a tornado. We actually had two kind of boundaries with thunderstorms that have formed both to the north of Upton County and thunderstorms that have formed to the south of Upton County. And those things kind of put out air. That air collided. You can get some turbulence and some circulation that happens with that. And if things line up just right, you can turn that around and you can get a little tornadic circulation out of something like that. So it's not unheard of, but it's definitely on the rare end for this area.
We're expecting another round of thunderstorms to come in tonight. We have a marginal risk for severe weather over us. Could we see more of this tonight? And even could it be as widespread, or will it be more isolated?
We're expecting it to be a little bit more isolated today. Thankfully, this little upper level low type system that's moved in over us has kind of, and the thunderstorms that came through last night, have definitely zapped a little bit of that heat and that energy out of the atmosphere that we've had the past couple of days. With that in mind, it won't be, at least in the Atlanta metro, quite as hot as it's been on previous days, since we don't have those heat advisories and stuff out right now. And so you can still see some thunderstorms. Certainly could see a few of these get severe, but we're definitely not expecting things to be quite as widespread as they were yesterday, for sure.
Good deal. Let's talk about this heat real quick here. I don't like heat. I don't like heat.
I don't either.
But it's coming down. But we're still going to see temperatures in the 90s, so that wave will continue.
Yeah. So it definitely isn't going to be as warm as it's been on the previous days. We've, like you said, we've still got temperatures though in the 90s, and that's going to bring our heat indices up to right at the triple digits. Again, not that like 105 to 110 that we've seen the past couple of days, but it's still going to be pretty toasty out there. So we don't have the heat advisory out necessarily over the metro. We do over northwest Georgia and folks up that way towards like Chattanooga and stuff like that. Mm-hmm. But at least for the metro, it will be relatively a little bit cooler, but you definitely need to still keep in mind that it's summer, it's Georgia, it's going to be hot.
Absolutely.
Take those heat precautions, make sure that you're still, drinking plenty of water, keeping hydrated if you're going to be outdoors. If you need to take a break, get inside, get out of that heat. We all know how to operate with the heat here in Georgia, for better or for worse. All
right, sounds good. Next week I'm going to ask you about the Peachtree Road Race. A lot of people watching, they want to know what the weather's going to be like for that. So go ahead, I'm going to tee you up for that for next week.
Sounds good.
All right, take care, my friend. We'll see you later.
You too.
All right, folks, we got plenty more for you coming up. Could Delta Airlines start making deliveries? We're going to dive into that right after this. This is the take. Well, Atlanta-based Delta Airlines may be flying into a whole new kind of delivery service. CNN's Sabeel Marcellus joins us now from the NASDAQ market site in New York. Good morning, Sabeel. And what is this about Delta making deliveries possibly?
Good morning, Chesley. That's right. Everything from shoes to thousands of other things we order online could be coming to our doorstep courtesy of Delta. Delta is helping get all those online shopping orders to your home. The airline is using space in its cargo holds to carry tens of thousands of packages a day. The space has opened up as more flyers go with carry-ons. Delta connects with trucking companies via a tech platform to drop off and then pick up the parcels for delivery. For businesses, the passenger airlines can be a much cheaper option for shipping items. The Wall Street Journal says Delta aims to deliver hundreds of thousands of packages a day in the U.S. in the coming years. UPS, by contrast, delivered an average of 19 million packages a day domestically last year. So, Chesley, Delta still has a long way to go there to catch up.
Yes, they do. All right. Speaking of catching up, you got some new numbers about home sales, but they're not what we may expect, huh?
That's right. A sharper than expected drop in sales of new single-family homes, Chesley. They tumbled 13.7% in May, according to U.S. Census data. That was a drop of 6.3% from last May, and the figures were weaker than expected. The slump in sales came as mortgage rates on a 30-year fixed loan climbed in May. Rates started the month around 6.83%, then hit 7% before falling back a bit. And economists say the higher rates and economic uncertainty has slowed the usually busy spring housing market. But the slower sales did push up inventory, with 507,000 new homes available at the end of May. And that was a 3-year high, Chesley.
Sticking with our homes, right? Two mortgage giants taking a fresh look at crypto?
That's right, Chesley. You'll want to have all your assets available to list on a mortgage application, and you may soon be able to use any cryptocurrency holdings you have to get that mortgage. The Trump administration has told Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac to look at ways to count crypto as an asset on home loan applications. The directive means borrowers would not have to liquidate Bitcoin and other crypto holdings before they close on a mortgage. Presently, crypto is not considered on home loan applications due to volatility and uncertainty around the asset. The move shows crypto's growing acceptance as a mainstream asset, and it's also in keeping with President Trump's efforts to make the U.S. the crypto capital of the world. The next step is for Fannie and Freddie to come up with proposals on how to accept cryptocurrency as an asset for mortgages.
Wow.
Chesley, this could be a game changer.
Yeah, it could. It could if it happens. Let's see. Finally, you have a popular dating app making a bold move that shake up more than just our love lives.
Chesley, dating apps have been restructuring as younger users become turned off by online swiping. And now Bumble is slashing nearly 30% of its workforce. The job cuts will affect about 240 workers at the dating app. It comes as Bumble and other dating platforms deal with slow growth and falling stock prices. Dating apps are trying to find ways to attract younger users, Chesley. The CEO of Bumble said the company, along with the online dating industry, is at an inflection point. Bumble hopes the job cuts allow it to change its structure and speed up how it operates. One of the efforts is to be able to launch new products faster to boost growth. Chesley.
I see. All right. Sabeel Marsalis, thanks so much for joining us. Thanks for all that information.
Thanks, Chesley.
All right. Take care. Plenty more stories for you coming up, folks, plus robots handling security. Let's talk about it right after the break. All right, this should be a good one right here. There's a new level of security that's being rolled out in some metro Atlanta communities. Autonomous robots is what we're talking about. They're increasingly being deployed in businesses, municipalities, and law enforcement to bolster public safety and deter crime. Here now with us is Fareed Al-Jarari. He's the CEO of Micropolis Robots. Welcome to the show.
Hi, Chesley. How are you?
I'm doing pretty good.
And thank you for having me. We're calling you from Dubai, a little bit late here.
Oh, absolutely. Fareed, now, how do you convince a community or a business that this technology enhances safety without crossing into surveillance outreach or overreach?
Yeah, very good question, because actually we faced the same problem at the beginning here. People start to ask questions like questioning privacy issues. But the way we designed the technology, actually, we made sure we don't collect any private data. There's no facial recognition. It's just about behavior analysis and suspect matrix. It is a pretty good technology. It is a collaboration between machines and the human, actually. It's not a technology that depends completely on robots, but of course you still need the human on board.
So from a business standpoint, what's the biggest value proposition that you pitch to property owners or sites that you or go to invest in these robot securities?
Very good, because actually we started this project with Dubai Police. It was under the supervision of the HQ, Dubai Police HQ. So they told us exactly their challenges. What are the challenges exactly? For example, in high crime areas, those robots are very useful. For example, you don't deploy them just anywhere. I mean, you deploy them in places where you don't want to send police forces, and where you want 24 hours of surveillance. Usually you can't free up, the patrols officers just to go and survey 24 hours. Those are very expensive personnel. And you just free them up to do another kind of job like detective work or responding to incidents. But this is a technology where you can think about it. It is a camera on wheel with AI and like behavior analysis models. This is what the technology is all about. It's very useful, actually. We're testing it here in Dubai. The results are pretty good so far.
So instead of a person walking around the grounds of a property, it would just be the robot rolling around with that camera on it, right?
Yeah, exactly. Yes, it's an autonomous robot, actually, with a mission planner. Of course, you determine the mission from the beginning. It operates under supervision of experienced police forces. Actually, it is. Think about it like a patrol. A robot that drives like a patrol but thinks like a policeman.
Gotcha.
Very good for gated communities, high crime areas, for example. Even places where you want to deploy robots in remote areas, for example, which is hard for police to reach every day. It's very good technology.
Yeah, gotcha. All right, there's a lot of talk about AI and some of the fears of biasness when it comes to facial recognition. How are you building in these safeguards to ensure that your robots don't reinforce the inequalities in policing or profiling?
Actually, it is a technology. It doesn't deal with discrimination. It is just it's about behavior. If someone behave in a certain way, someone beat someone, let's say, or start to steal from someone, the AI just knows there's a human who's trying to assault another human. That's it. There's no issue with profiling at all. Yeah, it is not even close.
Okay, all right. Atlanta's a big test market, right? Are there any lessons you learned from any local deployments that have shaped your national outlook on this technology?
Yeah, in Dubai, it is a little bit different. You see, Dubai is a safe city, okay, usually. They want to augment safety because, for example, the challenges in Dubai is, you are dealing with the 200 nationalities, 2.7 million tourists, newcomers. This technology is really important because you can't just deploy, technology randomly. The technology needs to do something useful for the police because otherwise it will be an extra cost. So the way Dubai police, for example, think about it, they want to collect important data. Whenever something happens, they go back to it for more investigation. This is how it works in Dubai. I hope this same thing will happen in United States soon.
Yeah, okay. All right, do you see, you said that you'll be working with human expertise, at least right now. 5 years from now, do you see the robots working independently, away from the human team? They can just operate themselves?
I'm skeptical here. I don't think. A human will be always the boss. Okay, so there is no way robots can do something by themselves. Never. Okay. I know I'm not supposed to say this. My colleagues in the robotic community might beat me up for this, but in reality, no. Human will be always on board. We just, robots, they meant to augment a human's operation, not actually replace it.
Gotcha. All right. Fareed, I really appreciate you joining us today. Thanks for that insight.
Thank you.
You're scaring me just a little bit. Just a little bit there. All right, folks, we got plenty more stories for you coming up. Come into work and the thing scans my face and says, hello, Chesley. I don't know. My final take coming up after this. This is the take. We'll be back right after this. We are looking at another round of scattered showers and thunderstorms. Not an alert, but it's something that you need to be aware of. Those storms will impact us, especially going home this evening. We're expecting those storms to be forming in our area after 2 o'clock this afternoon and will last until 10 o'clock. Keep the rain gear handy, folks. You're going to need that, especially if you're going to be out and about for today. 94 degrees will be the afternoon high temperature. 94, folks. When you factor in the humidity with that, it's going to feel like the upper 90s out there, not the triple digits. So a little bit cooler thanks to that rain that came through last night. We're looking at temperatures staying in those low 90s for the rest of the week, into the weekend and next week. And each and every afternoon, we'll have those scattered showers and thunderstorms around the forecast area. All right, before we go, my final take. A baseball fan has been banned from all MLB stadiums for taunting a baseball player during a game. Now, a lot of people are talking about whether or not the crime fits the bill. Well, you be the judge of this. A fan hacked Arizona Diamondbacks second baseman Ketel Marte. The 22-year-old yelled out derogatory comments about Marte's late mother. Now, before you start making excuses like, oh, he's young or he didn't know any better, well, you're wrong. He should know better. He's 22 years old. When is it ever okay to scream out derogatory comments, personal comments about someone that absolutely has nothing to do with the game? Now, I understand trash talk. Believe me, I've done my fair share of it, and I think it's a part of the game to help your opponent get in their heads a little bit so they can get them away from the game. But at the point where it becomes personal, that's a no-no, folks, especially about somebody's late mother. Man, if you can't appreciate the game and its players, then you get out of the game, and the MLB has done that. This is what they did with this situation. You cannot come to any ballpark that we have. Justified, if you ask me. Yeah, get out of the game, man. When is it right to talk about anybody personally? And he was a bit shaken up over that. He said he was crying. His teammate said he was crying over that. They had to console the guy. Man, that's all we got for you today, folks. Try to make it a good day. Try to encourage somebody today instead of making them cry. Have a great one.